first of all, you do not destroy an idea. They can defeat Hamas militarily, but they'll never destroy the idea. And the danger is that if they continue to kill large numbers of people, including Hamas terrorists, of course, but all that happens is you draw people from that inner and outer circle inwards to the core. You create more people in the bullseye, and you bring more people from the outer ring into the inner ring.
Today, of course, we're going to talk about Israel and Gaza with Major General Tim Cross, former British Army officer and military logistics expert. Good evening to you.
Hi, good evening.
It's quite clear then we've been speaking all week and we'll continue to. We spoke today to a spokesperson for Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel is determined to press on eventually, ultimately with this ground invasion. And they keep saying, well, they say it's going to be soon. And they say that they're going to do absolutely everything they can to limit the number of civilian casualties or deaths, which currently, according to the health ministry, stand at 7,000. 7,000 Palestinians have died. Is that almost impossible?
Well, there's several things in all of this. First of all, let me paint a picture, if I may, in the minds of yourself and the listeners. If you imagine an archery target with a bullseye and then an inner and an outer circle, in the context of Israel, Gaza, and indeed many other campaigns like Northern Ireland that I was involved in the 70s, the bullseye represents the hardcore terrorists who will do the sort of things that Hamas did on the 7th of October, kill, murder people, and so on. Relatively small in numbers. Outside them in the inner circle are people who would never do that, but are prepared to finance, hide weapons, hide the people, provide really strong logistical support, and so on. And that figure is much bigger than the inner core. And then on the outer circle are those people who wouldn't do any of those things, but are deeply sympathetic to the cause. And the problem with Israel at the moment in terms of trying to destroy Hamas is, first of all, you do not destroy an idea. They can defeat Hamas militarily, but they'll never destroy the idea. And the danger is that if they continue to kill large numbers of people, including Hamas terrorists, of course, but all that happens is you draw people from that inner and outer circle inwards to the core. You create more people in the bullseye, and you bring more people from the outer ring into the inner ring. And if you're going to win this thing, in any sense, you have got to win the battle of ideas. You've got to strip away the outer circle and the inner circle from the hardcore terrorists. And I think America and others, and I think the Prime Minister of Israel himself, are beginning to realize that some sort of ground invasion, large-scale ground invasion into Gaza is going to do exactly that. And therefore, I'm not convinced that he is, actually going to do that large-scale ground invasion. I think they will continue with the raids. I think they will continue to target Hamas, and they can do that through intelligence-led operations. Because what I just said before doesn't mean you don't try and kill people in that hardcore center. Sometimes you have to do that. But nonetheless, I'm not convinced he's going to conduct these full-scale invasion of Gaza, if you like. I mean, apart from anything else, fighting in built-up areas, what we call fibula in the British Army, is notoriously difficult. Sucks in people, creates huge casualties on both sides. And as I said earlier, they would not destroy Hamas. Hamas will just disappear.
Is it always easy? Is not the right word, but is it always possible to differentiate between civilians and Hamas terrorists? Because we're led to believe that they embed themselves in the community. They apparently hide their weapons in hospitals.
Yeah, no, they do. They do. It's no different to places like Northern Ireland, or indeed many other of the operations that I was in around the world. These operations are engaged in the people, within the people. And Hamas do not look differently. They're not painted a different color or wear uniforms. I mean, they hide themselves amongst the civilian population. They use civilians as protection. As protection. They put themselves in hospitals and schools and elsewhere. I mean, they are, metaphorically, a bunch of thugs. But they do not look different. Now, Israeli intelligence will have some idea of who some of these people are, and then no doubt they are targeting them and have been targeting them over the last couple of weeks. But that's why I say you won't destroy Hamas. You won't kill all of those hardcore center people anyway. And even if you did, you don't destroy the idea.
Do you think, if you are right, that the delay perhaps has been because the Israeli government are now perhaps realizing that fighting a full-scale ground invasion in a built-up area comes with all the problems that you talked about. Is there an issue here, though, that many of the people who've been directly affected by the 7th of October attacks, who've lost relatives, and other Israelis who currently feel vulnerable, will act against, will show their feelings to the government, because they've been led to believe that this is going to happen, and if it doesn't happen, that could be a problem.
Yeah, no, undoubtedly. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a political issue. And we all know, Netanyahu's a fairly, to put it politely, fairly hard right guy. He was in serious trouble democratically prior to this. He's got this coalition which, is holding together at the moment. But yeah, at the end of the day, politics will drive this. Now, what we need, therefore, are leaders, not just Netanyahu, but others too, Western leaders and others advising, of wisdom, who can win this conversation, win this idea that I'm talking about, to convince Netanyahu and therefore the Israeli people that invading Gaza like that is not the right answer. It will not achieve what they think they're going to achieve. And as a lot of people have said in the last couple of weeks, the question, once you've finished that operation, if you started, is what the heck comes next? And frankly, like most people, I haven't got a clue what comes next. I've never been a great fan of the two-state solution, I have to say. I absolutely believe Israel has a right to exist and to defend itself. But what's happening in Gaza is pretty awful, and it can't go on. So this is a really intractable problem, but it isn't going to be made any better by invading a large-scale ground invasion of Gaza. And the Israeli people, that needs to be explained to them. Now, there's the issue of hostages and all sorts of other things related to this, and clearly there's no easy answer to that either. But again, by not invading, I think Israel will be in a stronger position to negotiate to get these hostages out, and targeted operations, to get some of them out through intelligence-led operations and so forth, may be part of that answer.
Yeah. On the hostages, Israel don't like having their feeling that they're having their strings pulled, and they say that they actually don't believe necessarily when Hamas say that 50 of these 229 people have already died because you've been striking us. So what does that mean in terms of the safety of hostages, some of them civilians and some of them military?
Yeah, well, the first thing to say is, reinforcing that point, why anybody believes anything that Hamas says, I don't quite understand. We keep quoting these figures that Hamas are giving us. I mean, they're complete. We should not believe what they're saying in any sense. They are a terrorist organization, and of course, they realized, going back to one of my earlier points, that they were losing the battle of ideas, and that the Arab world was beginning to recognize and work with Israel. UAE and other countries, Jordan and so forth, and Saudi Arabia was beginning to talk about it, which is why, in my view, why they conducted this operation on the 7th of October anyway. They wanted to trap Israel, to convince Israel, to force Israel to react and do the sort of things that everybody's been talking about, and some of the things we've been seeing. But we shouldn't believe a word that Hamas says. So I don't know where these, and nobody will really know where these hostages are. But of course, by saying that 50 of them have been killed, what they're really saying to Israel and the Israeli people, and indeed the rest of the world, is that Israel is killing its own hostages. Now, clearly, nobody would want that, least of all Israel. It may be the case that some hostages are being killed as a result of these air attacks. Who knows?
Right.
But we shouldn't, we shouldn't allow. I don't think they should allow that to drive the reaction and what they get up to next.